In a busy town, Ben was once a hardworking and successful man. He owned a big business selling motor parts, and everyone in the community respected him. Ben had a beautiful wife and 2 children, and he had plenty of money to take care of them. But Ben was always busy with his business. He left home early in the morning before his children woke up and came back late at night when they were already asleep. When Ben was at home, it was mostly to discipline his children. His wife would wait for Ben to come back and punish the children if they misbehaved. This made the children fear their father, and over time, they believed he didn't love them. They saw their mother as the kind and caring one. Whenever the children complained about how strict their father was, their mother would say, "That's how he treats everyone, even me." This only made the children hate their father even more. Though Ben wasn't around much, he provided for his family. He gave his wife money for the children's school fees and other expenses. But he missed important events like school meetings and graduations. This made the children feel even more distant from him. One day, Ben's business began to fail. Customs officers seized a shipment of his goods from China, and even though Ben paid a large sum of money to get it back, his goods were never returned. As his business crumbled, Ben struggled to pay his debts. He told his wife that they needed to cut down on expenses, but she ignored him and continued to spend lavishly. Desperate, Ben decided to use the little money they had left to open a small supermarket for his wife. She agreed, and Ben gave her 50 million naira to start the business. The supermarket was a big success and began to expand. Meanwhile, Ben's financial problems worsened. He had to sell his properties and, eventually, his motor parts shop to pay off his debts. Now with no business left, Ben returned home, hoping to work with his wife in her supermarket. But she refused. The children, who had grown up hating their father, didn't offer him any help or kindness. They believed that their mother was the one supporting the family, not knowing how much Ben had done for them. His wife often boasted to the children, "I'm the one paying the rent and putting food on the table." She even stopped giving Ben food, eating at her shop and bringing food only for herself and the children. Ben, once a respected businessman, was now broken. He began to drink heavily, depressed and ashamed. People in the neighborhood started giving him money out of pity. One of Ben's relatives from the village heard about his situation and informed the village elders. The elders sent for Ben, and he returned to the village to live. They gave him a small piece of land to farm. Ben, who had once owned a large business, now worked on a small farm to survive, while his wife and children continued living comfortably in the city, enjoying the wealth Ben had once provided. One day, Ben fell ill. He had kidney stones, and the village hospital couldn't treat him. The doctor told his relatives to take him to a hospital in the city for proper treatment, but there was no money. Ben's wife refused to visit him or send money for his treatment, claiming that her business was not doing well and that she had no time. One Sunday evening, while we were having dinner, my father's phone rang. It was the village doctor. He was shouting, "If you don't come by tomorrow morning to take your brother, I will throw him out of my hospital." He reminded my father that he had promised to take Uncle Ben to a better hospital but hadn't shown up. I wondered how my father would get the money to clear the hospital bills, let alone take Uncle Ben to a city hospital. As I was thinking about this, I heard my father's spoon drop to the floor. My mother shouted, "Why are you the only one responsible for Ben? You've borrowed money to help him, and now people are calling you all the time, disturbing my sleep." I looked at my father and saw tears in his eyes. It was the first time I had ever seen him cry. "How the mighty have fallen," my father said with a heavy heart. How can the owner of Ben Automobiles not afford 10 million naira for his own hospital bills? The elephant has labored in vain. Tears rolled down his cheeks as he shouted, "Since the bird has learned to fly without perching, the hunter will learn to shoot without missing." I will sell my land to save my brother, no matter what. My mother was silent. My father turned to her and said, if not for Ben, I wouldn't have had the money to marry you. If not for Ben, you wouldn't have a shop. If not for Ben, I wouldn't own the land I have. Then he added, the only difference between you and Ben's wife is your name. The next morning, I followed my father to the hospital. When we entered the room, my father called out to Uncle Ben, the elephant himself. Is this really you? Uncle Ben's condition was critical, his legs were swollen, and he looked weak. When he heard my father's voice, he began to cry. My father told him that he would sell his land to pay for his treatment. I will do anything to make sure that the great elephant stands tall again, my father said, tears falling down his face. Uncle Ben, also in tears, thanked my father. If not for you, I would have died long ago. But please, my brother, don't sell your land because of me. Where will your children live if you sell it? I beg you, let me go. Just tell my son to come and see me before I leave this world. My father, unable to control his sorrow, promised to deliver Uncle Ben's message. I will go to his house in Lagos tomorrow morning, and I pray that he will listen this time. Uncle Ben asked my father to take a red envelope from his room and give it to his son, adding, I know you've been to his house more than 6 times, but try this one last time for my sake. My father promised to go and told Uncle Ben to rest, before going to speak with the doctor. As I sat there, watching Uncle Ben lying on the hospital bed, a flood of questions filled my mind. Will Uncle Ben ever be okay again? Will he find it in his heart to forgive his wife? Will his rich son, who hadn't visited in so long, grant his father's dying wish? The uncertainty weighed heavy in the room, and the silence felt louder than ever. But in that moment, I realized, only time would tell.